I stared at my brother's message, every word burning through my chest like an open wound. Don't come to Dad's 60th. You'll shame all of us. If I see you anywhere near the venue, I'll have you removed. Typical Lucas, forever the loyal golden son guarding the Reyes family image. Tonight's celebration at Barton Creek Country Club was the social affair of the season in Austin, with tech investors, city officials, and industry heavyweights gathering to honor Daniel Reyes, the man behind Reyes Dynamics. Heaven forbid they discover the daughter he cast aside wasn't the failure he'd painted her to be. Another alert buzzed, this time from my stepmother, Claire. Lucas is right. Tonight is vital for your father's partnerships. Please don't cause any drama. Drama. That's what they'd called it when I turned down the family's executive training track 7 years ago. I didn't want the prepackaged route at Reyes Dynamics or a VP title handed out like a party favor. I wanted to earn my place in the world, so I walked away, and they never once asked what became of me after. Across my office, a plaque caught the sunlight. Fast Company's most disruptive founder under 35. Beside a framed TechLine weekly feature, Isabella Lin and the quantum leap in sustainable energy storage. They had no idea Isabella Lin was me. I'd taken my mother's surname after college, and while they mocked my rebellious phase, I was in a lab engineering breakthrough quantum cell batteries that would shake the energy sector, the very technology Reyes Dynamics was now desperate to license just to survive. My phone lit up with David Kim, COO of my company, Lintic Systems. Everything's set. Summit Capital will announce the partnership at 8 sharp. Are you sure you want to reveal yourself tonight? I glanced at the invitation on my desk, its embossed lettering and dramatic flourish. A celebration of Daniel Reyes, visionary, builder, father. Yes, I replied steadily. It's time. David chuckled. Oh, and Olivia Summit personally requested your attendance. Apparently, your father's been begging for a meeting with the Lint CEO for months. Of course he had. The electric energy market had surged past his firm, and he needed my designs to stay afloat. I slipped into a sleek black dress, elegant but understated, no visible designer labels, and fastened a small silver moon pendant around my neck. My mother's, the only piece of family I'd ever kept close. She'd given it to me before she passed, back when I was still the daughter my father bragged about at conferences and holiday dinners. Follow your heart, Isabella, she'd whispered, pressing the pendant into my palm, even if it takes you far from where others say you belong. The Barton Creek Country Club shimmered as my car rolled to the valet, and inside the event was already alive. Chandeliers sparkling above Austin's elite, laughter spilling over clinking glasses, and a massive banner stretched across the ballroom entrance. Happy 60th birthday, Daniel Reyes. At the check-in table stood Lucas's wife, Rachel, poised and alert with her ever-present clipboard, her expression freezing the instant she spotted me stepping out of the car. Isabella, she stammered, flustered. You can't just walk in. Lucas specifically. Good evening, Mrs. Reyes. I cut in with calm precision. I believe you'll see I'm on the guest list. James Summit's office called ahead. You'll want to check your tablet. Her fingers darted across the screen. Wait. Yes. You're listed. Mr. Summit said he specifically requested you. How did you? But I was already moving inside. Same marble floors, same carefully orchestrated laughter, the same quiet air of competition. It was the world I'd walked away from, and it hadn't changed at all. Claire stood near the bar, her voice bright as she showed off a new diamond cuff. My half-sister Madison clung to a 20-something hedge fund analyst, eyes wide with admiration. Lucas spotted me next. His face hardened into a scowl as he marched over. What part of stay away didn't you understand? Lovely to see you too, Lucas, I replied evenly. It's a beautiful party. Security's on the way, he muttered through clenched teeth. You have 60 seconds to leave. Don't embarrass yourself. I glanced at my watch. Actually, you'll find Mr. Summit will be here in 30 seconds, and he requested that I be present for the announcement. Confusion flickered across his face. Summit? What could James Summit possibly want with you? Right on cue, the energy in the room shifted. Conversations faltered, heads turned, and a hush rippled through the crowd. James Summit had arrived. At 65, he didn't need volume or bravado. His presence alone silenced the room. Summit Capital was legendary, and everyone knew he was here to unveil a major partnership. My father nearly jogged to greet him, hand extended, desperate for the spotlight. James, so glad you made it. Let's talk inside. But Summit's gaze swept the room, then stopped on me. Ah, there she is. Silence snapped tight as he brushed past my father without a glance and walked straight toward me. Or should I say, Ms. Reyes? He said, offering his hand with a smile. It's an honor to finally meet you in person. You could have heard a champagne bubble pop. Claire's glass dipped. Madison blinked. Lucas looked like he'd swallowed glass. And my father went deathly pale. Lucas's mouth opened, but nothing came out. The threat of security vanished. I don't understand, my father finally murmured, turning to James with disbelief. You know Isabella? James smiled, amusement crinkling his eyes. Know her, Daniel? Your daughter is one of the most brilliant innovators in the industry today. He paused, scanning the stunned faces. Though judging by the reaction here, I'm guessing no one realized Isabella Lynn and Isabella Reyes are the same person. The silence broke when Claire dropped her champagne flute, the shatter echoing like a gunshot across the marble. Still, no one moved. That's impossible, Lucas said, stepping forward, his voice breaking. She's been off the radar since she left. She hasn't done anything. I've been building lintic systems, I said coolly, stepping toward them, and that nothing is now valued at $4.2 billion. My father's hand shook as he grabbed the back of a chair. Lintic, the quantum battery company everyone's been trying to. That's right, I said, meeting his eyes. The elusive CEO you've been chasing. The technology that could save Rhea's dynamics from collapse. You raised her. James cleared his throat politely. Speaking of which, shall we move forward with the announcement? Wait, my father said, lifting a hand. What announcement? I stepped forward, letting the moment settle. Summit Capital is entering a strategic partnership with Lintic Systems, I said clearly. Together, we're acquiring a controlling interest in Rhea's dynamics. The ballroom erupted into hushed chaos, gasps, whispers, stunned stares. Lucas's face flushed red. You can't do this. This is our company. Actually, James said smoothly, we can. And we are. As he turned to the crowd. Lintec's technology is a full generation ahead of anything else on the market, James continued. Every major manufacturer wants in, but Ms. Reyes insisted her family's company be given the first opportunity, a courtesy, not an obligation. Claire surged forward, her voice sharp and urgent. Daniel, you can't let her take control. She'll destroy everything we've built. I let out a quiet laugh. Everything you built? I echoed. You mean the company bleeding market share, clinging to gas-powered systems while the world pivots to electric? The company 3/4 of the way to bankruptcy? My father's rigid expression finally cracked, years of silence between us flashing through his eyes. Isabella, please, we can talk about this. I stepped closer, my voice low but steady. Now you want to talk? 7 years ago, I told you the future was electric. You told me to stop playing engineer and focus on real business. When I showed you my early prototypes, Lucas called them cute sketches, and when I left to start Lintex, Claire said I was abandoning my responsibilities. I straightened. Well, I didn't walk away. I built something that matters, and I'm here to save the company that never thought I was worth listening to." James Summit watched quietly as the Reyes family unraveled in real time, the currents of pride, denial, and long-buried resentment obvious even to him. "The time for talking was 7 years ago," I said calmly, eyes fixed on my father. "Right now, this is about saving what's left of Reyes Dynamics." I let the silence stretch. "You need Lintex technology, and I'm offering it. The only real question is whether you can accept that the daughter you dismissed is now your only way out." Madison, who'd been unusually quiet behind Claire, finally spoke, her voice unsure. "But all those times we invited you to family dinners and events, you always said you were busy." "I was busy," I replied. "Building a company takes time and sacrifice. But no one ever asked what I was building. You were all too convinced I was failing to imagine I might be succeeding." James pulled a crisp folder from his jacket and set it gently on the table. "The documents are ready, Daniel. Lintex Systems will acquire a 60% controlling stake in Reyes Dynamics." I continued, clear and unwavering. "I'll step in as co-CEO and begin rolling out our electric vehicle roadmap across all divisions. Production starts in 6 months." My father looked stunned. "And if I refuse?" he asked quietly. "Then James and I will take our technology to your competitors," I said without hesitation, "and they'll be thrilled to have it." Lucas grabbed his arm. "Dad, you can't be serious." "Be quiet, Lucas." The sharp edge in Daniel Reyes's voice cut through the room, freezing everyone in place. Then he turned to me, really looked at me for the first time in years. "The battery technology? It's really yours?" he asked, his voice suddenly softer. I nodded and pulled out my phone, opening Lintex's internal system. Dozens of patent filings, prototype schematics, and registered IPs filled the screen. Every cell design, every energy modulation protocol, every cooling circuit. I met his gaze. "While you were pitying me for leaving, I was rebuilding the industry from the ground up." He took the phone with trembling hands and I watched his expression shift. Confusion, then awe, then something heavier. The full weight of realization as his eyes filled with tears. "Save it," I said, gentle but firm. "We'll talk about the past later. Right now, I need to know, are you ready to listen to your so-called embarrassment of a daughter?" James Summit stepped forward again, holding out a pen. The room went completely still. Even the string quartet had paused, their hands trembling. My father signed the contract. Behind him, Claire's sharp gasp pierced the silence. Lucas's fists clenched in fury before he turned and stormed out, dragging Rachel behind him. Madison simply stared at me, as if seeing me for the first time. "Ladies and gentlemen," Summit announced to the stunned room, "please join me in welcoming the new CEO of Reyes Lintec Industries, Ms. Isabella Reyes." The applause was slow, hesitant, but it was there. Beside me, my father stood frozen in silence. Claire's perfectly composed face was cracking, but I didn't look at her. Instead, I touched the silver crescent moon at my collarbone, my mother's pendant. She had told me to follow my heart, and I had, right to this moment. It had brought me full circle, not as the obedient daughter they had once hoped for, but as the woman they never saw coming. Later that night, as the party dwindled into soft music and clinking glasses, I stood alone on the terrace, watching the Texas hills fade into the dark horizon. My father found me there, his steps slow and hesitant. "That night you laughed," he said quietly, stopping a few feet away. "You tried to show me your designs. I wouldn't even look at them." "Didn't turn?" "No," I replied. "You wouldn't." There was a long pause before he spoke again. I was wrong about everything. When I finally turned to face him, I didn't see the titan of industry who had dismissed me, but a man who had finally seen his own reflection. "Can you ever forgive me?" he asked. I looked down, fingers brushing the silver crescent moon at my neck. My mother's pendant, the symbol of every choice I'd made. The distance, the pain, the determination. It depends, Dad, I said gently. Are you ready to learn from your daughter? He met my gaze and nodded. Teach me. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't proving others wrong, it's proving yourself right. And every so often, it comes with a second chance to rebuild what was broken, on your own terms. The next morning, I stepped through the glass doors of what was once Reyes Dynamics. The new logo above now read, Reyes Lintech Industries. As I walked the main corridor, I passed the old company slogan, still mounted in gleaming steel letters, driving tomorrow's future. By next week, it would be replaced with something truer. Innovation runs in the family. Lucas's nameplate had been removed, and Claire's tastefully pretentious art installations were gone. The space felt lighter, like the weight of years had finally been lifted. In my new office, formerly my father's, sunlight streamed across the desk. There, waiting for me, was a neatly wrapped package. Inside, nestled in soft tissue paper, was an old, weathered engineering textbook, my mother's. A sticky note marked a page near the back, her handwriting still so familiar after all these years. For Isabella, who will change the world her own way. And I had. Not with permission, not with praise, but with vision, grit, and the quiet fire of a daughter who refused to be small, just not in the way anyone had expected. If you've made it this far in my story, thank you for listening to the parts too painful to speak aloud for years. I was called a disappointment, ignored in boardrooms, and laughed out of family dinners. But I didn't let that define me. I kept building, learning, pushing, even when no one believed in me. If you've ever felt dismissed by the people who should have supported you most, I hope my story reminds you. You don't need permission to become who you're meant to be. You only need your vision, your conviction, and the courage to take one step at a time. So, I want to hear from you. What did this story make you feel? Have you ever been in a room where no one saw your worth until it was too late? Leave a comment. I'll read every single one. Your words matter. Your voice matters. And if you've had to walk your path alone too, maybe we're not so alone after all. Here's my advice. Don't wait for recognition. Build anyway. Grow anyway. The applause might come years later, or never at all. But the legacy you create, that's yours forever. Support those around you daring to do things differently. And if you see someone like me quietly working, overlooked, take a second look. They might be building something world-changing. Sometimes the person the world underestimates most is the one rewriting the rules. And to anyone still doubting themselves, keep going. You are not too late. You are not too much. And you are absolutely not invisible. You're just getting started. Isabella Reyes.